Welcome students to the video module on structure determination by X-ray diffraction. X-ray diffraction is one of the prominent method for determination of crystal structures. X-ray crystallography is the experimental science determining the atomic and molecular structures of crystal, in which the crystalline structure causes a beam of incident X-rays to diffract into many specific directions. By measuring the angle and intensities of these diffracted beams, we can produce a three-dimensional picture of the density of electrons within the crystal. We can find the mean position of atoms in the crystal and their chemical bond. And we can also find the crystallographic disorder and various other information. Why X-rays are used for this? We know that in the case of an ordinary two-dimensional grating that we usually do in our laboratory works, a two-dimensional grating, a visible electromagnetic radiation is diffracted because the spacing between lines in the grating is of the same order as that of wavelength of visible light, around 4,000 to 7,000 angstrom. So we know that for diffraction to occur, the obstacle must be in the same order as that of the incident radiation. That is why there in the case of grating we used visible radiation. The same principle hold good for diffraction by three-dimensional grating of periodic array of atoms in a crystal. The periodic array of atoms in a crystal we can consider as a three-dimensional grating. And the interatomic separation, the interatomic spacing in crystal is of the order of 2 to 3 angstrom. So we cannot use visible light. So the best radiation for this particular purpose is X-rays, because we know that the obstacle and radiation must be of this almost the same order for a diffraction to occur. So that is why we prefer X-rays to study crystal structure, because the crystal inside the crystal, the atomic arrangement can be treated as a three-dimensional grating with a spacing of the order of 2 to 3 angstrom. What is 1 angstrom? 1 angstrom is 10 to the power minus 10 meter. Okay. So X-rays also belong to the same order of wavelength in an angstrom range. So we use X-rays for crystal structure determination. Now, how X-rays are formed? We know that X-rays are formed by colliding high energy electrons to heavy metals like molybdenum. So, for example, if the radiation emitted by a molybdenum target, by bombarding it with 35 kilovolt electrons, are shown here. Okay, you can see here. This is the wavelength emission from a molybdenum target, which is bombarded with 35 kilovolt electrons. That consists of many wavelengths, but they are not that much prominent. Only 2 wavelengths are prominent, and inside that itself one is more prominent, and we represent that as K alpha. That is the characteristic X-rays of emitted by this particular metal, and the other one is represented as K beta. Okay, and if there are other, we can represent by L alpha, etc. So K alpha, K beta, and L alpha. K alpha radiation has the highest intensity that is emitted from this any particular metal, and that is commonly used for diffraction studies. Okay. So a second order reflection, so we are considering cubic crystal, a second order reflection from 1 0 0 plane. We learned about the planes and Miller indices in the last module. Okay. So a second order reflection from 1 0 0 plane should satisfy the equation 2d sin theta equal to 2 lambda, because we are considering second order reflection. That is why 2 lambda equal to 2d sin theta, and it is specifically mentioned as d100. That is a separation between two 100 planes, parallel planes. That gives lambda equal to d sin theta, or d100 sin theta. The same way, you consider a first order reflection from 200 plane. It's a parallel plane actually. That when you substitute, you will get, it's a first order, so it is 1 lambda. 1 lambda equal to 2d sin theta, or in precise it is 200 sin theta. But we already know that the spacing between, the interplanar spacing between 100 planes is twice that of the interplanar separation between 200 planes. We proved in the previous modules. Or you can do that by the interplanar separation equation, d is equal to a by root of h square plus k square plus l square. Use that equation, you will get this one. Okay. So the interplanar separation d for 100 plane is twice that of interplanar separation for d 200 planes. Okay. So in that aspect, we can see that this equation 4 and 5, they are same. They are same because d100 is equal to 2 times d200. So when you substitute, these two equations are identical. So the two reflections will superimpose on each other, and we cannot distinguish that. In a similar argument, we can see that the third order reflection from 100 plane will superimpose with the first order reflection from 300 planes. So this gives a conclusion. There is no need to consider the variations of which order of reflection we are treating, which n value we are taking. Instead, we take n to be unity for all reflections from parallel set of planes, such as 100, 200, 300, 400, etc. So there is no, or it turns out to be like there is no 200 plane with atoms on it. What is designated as a 200 reflection is actually refers to the second order reflection from 100 planes. So we can treat everything like 100 plane. So that is, or a 300 plane can, the reflection from a 300 plane can be treated as the third order reflection from 100 plane. So everything is identical there. So that is why in our calculation we can directly substitute the value of n to be unity. Okay. Now let us do one activity. The diffraction pattern of a cubic crystal of lattice parameter A 3.16 angstrom is obtained when it is studied with an X-ray of wavelength 1.54 angstrom. The first order lines in this pattern are observed like this. Determine the interplanar separation and the Miller indices of the reflecting planes. So the first one is 20.3 degree. We have two equations for the interplanar separation. One is d n lambda equal to d sin theta, and it is specifically mentioned that n is 1. So n lambda is equal to d sin theta, 2d sin theta I mean. 1 lambda equal to d sin theta, or d equal to lambda by 2 sin theta. Okay. So making a table here, d, this is the calculated value of d using the Bragg's equation. How? D equal to lambda by 2 sin theta. Lambda is given, theta value is 20.3, find sin theta, multiplied with 2, then lambda is divided with this 2 sin theta. It gives an answer 2.20. So we got an expression for d h scale. We don't know what is that h scale value, 2.200. And we have another equation for interplanar separation, because we learned that d is equal to a by root of d square plus, a by root of h square plus k square plus l square. Okay. So what is you square this equation, you will get d square equal to a square by root of h square plus k square plus l square. Cross multiply, you will get h square plus k square plus l square equal to a square by d square. So a is given, and d value is obtained here. Substitute. So, okay, so for the first line we are calculating, and we got the value of a square by d square equal to 2. That is h square plus k square plus l square is 2. What is that? H square plus k square plus l square we obtained as 2. So which possible HKL value we get? 2 and answer 2 for this h square plus k square plus l square. That is 1, 1, 0. 1 square plus 1 square plus 0 square, that is 2. Or 1, 0, 1 or 0, 0, 1. I mean 0, 1, 1. Like that. The same calculation you can extend to other also. So we got the Miller indices using this calculation. So starting from the lowest index plane, we know no reflection corresponds to h square plus k square plus l square equal to 1, 3, 5, etc. Because we after this calculation it is obtained that 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. So there are reflections from 1, 1, 0 plane. There is reflection from 2, 0, 0 plane, 2, 1, 1 plane, and 2, 2, 0 planes respectively. So in this way we can calculate the Miller indices and lattice parameters using this X-ray studies. Okay. Now you know in diffraction studies 3 different types of arrangement we use. The first one is a monochromatic X-ray beam of one particular wavelength. Is allowed to pass through a powder form of crystals, or crystals are crushed into powder. Okay. So X-ray, single wavelength X-rays are allowed to pass through this. Only those with the correct values of theta, those reflections occur at the right combination that is given by the Bragg's law, gives constructive interference. So this is powder XRD technique. And there is another technique, and what is that? In powder technique we use a single X-ray, but it's allowed to pass through crystals of various orientations. Some orientations with the angle that satisfies Bragg's condition gives constructive interference. Next arrangement is called Louis technique. In this, a single crystal we are using. A single crystal is held stationary in the path of the beam so that the angle theta is constant. But a white radiation is directed. What is a white radiation? White X-ray radiation means various wavelength will be there. It's a spectrum of wavelength is allowed. So in that also one particular wavelength that satisfies the angle and the Bragg's parameters forms constructive superposition there. So in this we fix the crystal, fix the angle, but multiple wavelength will be used. In the previous case we fixed the wavelength, but the crystal in the form of powder, so angle will be different. So that will select the correct angle and form the crystal, I mean superposition there, pattern there. And there is yet another method, single crystal and single wavelength, that is monochromatic wavelength. But what we do here is we will rotate the crystal so that we change the angle. So this method is called rotating crystal method. So only some angle that satisfies the Bragg's condition will form constructive superposition and the pattern on the screen. So these are the 3 different techniques we used for crystal structure studies using X-rays. We will learn the powder method in detail, you know. Okay. So powder method is widely used for determination of crystal structure. You know, in this a monochromatic, we learned it is a monochromatic X-ray beam with a K alpha radiation. We learned about K alpha, K beta, L alpha such thing, but the higher intensity one is K alpha. So we use K alpha radiation to incident on the crystal which is crushed into powder form. That means the K alpha radiation will be allowed to pass through thousands of randomly oriented crystals which are in powder form. Then a Debye-Schreier camera, which consists of a cylindrical cassette with a strip of photographic film, is positioned around a circular periphery. You can see this. This arrangement. You see, only the circular cassette is shown here. This is a circular cassette with a photograph. It's a photographic film actually. And you can see this is the incident beam. Here is at the center there's a crystal in the form of powder, and this is an exit beam. So, reflections will occur in all directions. That satisfies the Bragg angle. Okay. So, with some angle there will be plane that satisfying Bragg's condition. So, that will get reflected in one direction. But that direction is actually not like a pencil beam, because the reflection with respect to, you see, I can show here, see with respect to the incident direction, that angle, the reflection with a particular angle, for example theta 1, that theta 1 is possible in all directions around that particular incident direction. So, that will, instead of a single reflected beam, it will be like a cone. You see, a conical reflection occurs there. So, on the circular photographic film kept there will be points on two positions. Okay, one here there will be a point mark, and another one here, and this is the central marking. So, on both sides of central marking you can see a portion of two cones. You see here there is a strip shown here, that is a central marking, and you can see this is the one, the cone, and this is the other portion of the same cone here on both sides. It's actually a three-dimensional one, and we kept a photographic film to get a two-dimensional visualization of that one. And the same way at other angle you can see another cone there. Okay, that is why this cone is shown here. Don't be confused with what is this and all. It is nothing other than the reflection occur at particular angles. So, there are a large number of crystals in that. So, all the reflections with the same angle that satisfies the Bragg condition, that forms a conical type reflection, and that can be photographed, or that can be marked on the photographic film, which is in a circular form kept around the crystal like this. Okay, and this is the film that is made into a straight one from the circular form. Okay. So, you can see this is the incident direction point, and this is the exit point, and the separation between two sections of the cone here. Okay, this separation, let it mark us, this is that distance. Oh, okay, this can be marked as yes. Okay, this is S, the distance S. Okay, so here, if it is here, this is S. So, in this book you can see this is the S value, and pi r, the distance between the incident point and exit point, pi r, because total circumference is 2 pi r. So, this is the separation, the linear separation between the two incident point and exit point, it is pi r. Okay, that is the geometry arrangement of a powder method crystal structure studies. Okay, and that crystal must be exposed to the radiation for sufficiently long time to get good intense markings on the film. Okay. The exposure time is usually few hours. After the film is exposed and developed, it is indexed to determine the crystal structure. It is easily seen that the first arc on either side of the exit point corresponds to the smallest angle of reflection. The pair of arc beyond this pair have the larger Bragg angles. As angle increases, you can see the spacing decreases, because d is equal to lambda by 2 sin theta. And the distance between any two corresponding arc on the spread out film is termed as S. We notice that S here. Yeah, S. And S is related to the radius of the powder camera, R. If R is the radius of the camera, then S is equal to 4 times r theta. S is equal to 4 times r theta. You can see this is the expression. Somewhere here it will come. Yeah, S is equal to 4 r theta, where theta is the Bragg angle. And for the calculation purpose of simplicity of calculation, we select the radius of the camera to be 57.3 millimeter as 1 radian, that is equal to 57.3 degree. So we select the camera radius as 57.3. So that term can be eliminated from this. Okay. So in the powder method, the intensity of reflected beam can also be recorded. Instead of, other than using this particular film arrangement, we can use a diffractometer, which uses a counter in place of the film to measure the intensity. The counter moves along the periphery of the cylinder, and that records the reflected intensities against the angle 2 theta. Peaks in the diffractometer recording corresponds to the positions where the Bragg condition is satisfied. So we'll get diffraction peaks if you are using a diffractometer instead of a film. See, if you are using a diffractometer, you will get this type of peaks. I mean, angle 2 theta versus intensity peaks. And from this, we can easily calculate the crystal structure parameters, HKL, then symmetry parameters, etc. And nowadays, we are using many softwares also for that. If time is there, we'll learn any of such a software. Those who are interested. Okay, so that is the powder XRD. I mean powder X-ray diffraction studies here. We discussed that one. So the structure determination when you get a diffraction, I mean X-ray diffraction pattern from a diffractometer. One particular example is shown here for a monoatomic cubic crystals here. We have the Bragg equation n lambda equal to 2d sine theta. Also, we know the expression for d, the spacing d is equal to a by root of h square plus k square plus l square. Now, just rearranging the terms, it will be like this. Okay, sine theta is n lambda by 2d, but substitute for d. D is a by root of this term. So that is now square of both sides, sine square theta is equal to n square, lambda square by 4a square, h square plus k square plus l square. Now, for n assumed to be 1. We already outlined the reason why we are selecting the value of n equal to 1. Then we can find sine square theta is equal to lambda square by 4a square times h square plus k square plus l square. So for a we know the value of monochromatic radiation used for X-ray diffraction. Lambda value is a known factor for us, and the Miller unknown. This unknown here is a Miller indices. But the theta value we'll get from the X-ray diffraction time. For a given cubic lattice, it is possible to list all the combinations of HKL and arrange h square plus k square plus l square in the increasing order, which will also be increasing with the angle theta. So from that, all unknown values we can calculate using these expressions. Okay. So by knowing the values of parameters obtained from the diffraction experiment, we can substitute in this, and any crystal structure we can determine. That is a manual determination. Nowadays, softwares are available. That is what I said earlier. Okay. Now, so you, I think you are familiar now with the methods for X-ray crystal diffraction studies. Okay, students. Bye.